Hey, well, tonight I'm angry because we never learn. And this is a good date to remind ourselves that we never learn because it's December the 1st. And exactly 65 years ago, December the 1st, 1955, a woman by the name of Rosa Louise Macaulay Parks was on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama. And everybody's heard the story, but I think the details of it have been lost in the mists of time. Rosa Parks was not really a tired seamstress on her way home, unwilling to get out of her seat. Rosa Parks was much more than that. Rosa Parks was a woman who, while she might not have been an activist, was certainly aware of the issues of her day and was engaged in efforts to seek justice for black people. So on this day in 1955, Rosa Parks got on a bus, and she actually had had experiences with this bus driver before. At the time in Montgomery, Alabama, black people were supposed to enter the front of the bus, pay the driver, then disembark and then re-embark at the back. And on many occasions, apparently, bus drivers would drive off after the black people had paid for their tickets, leaving them by the side of the road. Rosa Parks had apparently had some bad interactions with this particular driver before and had sworn that she would never ride on a bus with him as driver again. But on this day, apparently, she didn't notice that he was the driver and she boarded. At the time, the front of the bus was reserved for white people and the back rows for black people. And when Rosa Parks got on, she sat in the front row for black people. She was not in the white person section, but when the white person section filled up, the bus driver came back to the black people and said that they needed to move further back. Rosa Parks refused, even though everybody else, apparently in the row, there were 3 other people apparently, had obeyed the bus driver and moved. Rosa Parks would not, and she was subsequently arrested. Now, this caused great dislocation in the black community of Montgomery. As a matter of fact, the black community decided to boycott the bus lines altogether. One day after the boycott, interestingly enough, they had a meeting and they decided to form a group to continue the boycott, and they called the group the Montgomery Improvement Association. And funnily enough, at the time, they chose a little-known preacher from a small local church. The church was called the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, and the preacher's name was Martin Luther King. As it turns out, the boycott resulting from Rosa Parks' bus journey was in great part responsible for the early rise of Martin Luther King Jr.'s career. This boycott actually lasted for more than a year thereafter and caused great problems, obviously, for the bus line, and things did change. But for Rosa Parks, she really was not able to settle down in Montgomery, Alabama after that. There was a lot of ill will. She moved. She went to work for John Conyers early in his career, the congressman, and she lived to a ripe old age. But here we are, 65 years later. The distance between blacks and whites seems like it hasn't been this great for many years, and the distance seems to be increasing. Today, blacks and whites look at each other with hostility and suspicion, and all the work that Rosa Parks did, all the work the early activists did to try to get equal treatment seems to be for naught. Both sides do not trust the other. It seems hard to imagine how we're ever going to achieve a lasting peace between blacks and whites with agitators on both sides. But let's take a moment, even though we're saddened by the situation today, let's take a moment to reflect back upon Rosa Parks, who 65 years ago today stood up for all of us in her quest for truth and justice, specifically justice. If there was more of it, we wouldn't have such a desperate need to wake up.